Welcome in. My name is Britt, better known as Default Dan, and we're going to be looking at raids today, specifically Phase 4. So as you read from the title of the video, we did 1 million damage. This is something that a lot of teams are starting to do in Phase 4, specifically with the team we're going to be going over today. So I want to go in there, I want to break down each of the characters so that you guys can understand what their role is in this particular battle and what they're going to be doing and how to use them so that you can also get those numbers in your raid. So when it comes to the team composition, it's pretty simple. We've got the trio that everybody uses in PvP. So these are characters you should already be investing in: Hero, Honey Lemon, and Bubbles. We've got Gantu really bringing up some support damage, some extra damage on top of that, and Stitch being the all-stars. So we're gonna see these characters in game doing what they're doing and really going there describing them and letting you guys understand exactly how to attack with them. The other part is your spells. So you can see right now I've got 2 spells. They probably don't make any sense because these are junk spells. It doesn't matter what you put in here. You're not going to be able to use these spells because the way this team works, Ursula never really hits you outside of her 1 instant kill hit. And so because of that, your skills never charge. So with this team, throw your crappy skills on here. Doesn't matter what it is, but save your good spells for your other teams in your raid. So we're going to be checking out the battle. Again, this is recorded from when I did the heroic raid with our team this week. And we're going to be looking at exactly how to do this so that you guys can do it in your raids. And it does work in heroic. It does work in any of the other tiers. I did the same thing in tier 5 last week. Was able to get over 1 million damage there, along with multiple people in our club. So again, this is a team that you should invest in. There's nothing here that makes it specific to Ursula. I believe this team will be good in all raids in the future as well. It works very well in this particular raid because you have 1 character that you're trying to control. So the way this works, it's all about speed control. So we're going to break down each character, kind of go through the attacks, talk about them a little bit so you guys can understand what's going on. And we're going to kind of start from the right over to the left, starting with Honey Lemon. So Honey Lemon, the reason why she's in here really is all about that speed control. So her basic slows down your enemies, and that's really what we're going to be using the entire time with Honey Lemon. When you have these tentacles up, you may want to use some of the middle skill, the last skill, something like that to do extra damage. But as far as every time you're going to hit Ursula, just use your basic. It's going to slow her down, and that's really what you want to do with controlling the turn meter. The other thing you want to do specifically in Phase 4 is these first 2 tentacles. When you take them down, you're going to be able to remove all of Ursula's speed meter. You're going to be able to stun her and kind of get in a bunch of damage right up front. So we were able to do that right there. We took down the 2 tentacles, stunned Ursula, removed all of that speed meter right before she was going to go, and that was a big key to kind of getting the ball rolling with the team. So next up is Bubbles. And Bubbles, again, is going to be that speed meter control. So he's got 2 abilities you're really going to be focusing on. First is the ticket. Every time you get that ticket, you're going to throw it over to Stitch. We'll talk about Stitch in a minute, but you want to make sure he's getting that offense up. You want to make sure he's getting that tactics to start and getting things rolling. And as far as stare down goes, you're going to be using that stare down on Ursula. So you can see when we use that stare down, we're going to be able to remove her speed meter. And that's going to be a big key. So you're not going to silence her or anything like that, but you will remove a bunch of the speed meter for her, resetting her, and we're going to see that a little bit later as he continues to use that throughout the raid. And next up is Hero. So Hero does Hero things. He's going to be doing his shields over and over and over, going to be stacking up that evasion each time he does that. And then every time you get that speed up, you're going to give that to Bubbles. So one of the things is with Bubbles, you want to make sure he has haste. You want to make sure that he's getting as many turns as possible. because what he's going to be doing is using stare down on Ursula just to kind of slow that down. So that's why you're always giving that speed meter over to Bubbles. You don't really want to let Ursula get a bunch of turns. So by giving that speed over to Gantu or Stitch, it may sound good about extra damage, but you really don't want to do that because that means she's going to be getting more turns. So we can see we're going to throw this over to Bubbles. Bubbles is going to do that stare down, and we just removed all of that speed meter for Ursula. So just reset our turn, able to come in here, get more attacks, and then kind of go from there. As far as Gantu goes, you've already seen him kind of doing his thing, but you want to work up to Armada. We're just going to use Armada over and over and over because what he's going to do is give everybody, or he's going to give Stitch and Bubbles tactics. He's going to be doing that 6,000 to 10,000 damage with the assist. So even if he does 6,000, the 4,000 assist from Bubbles is going to be up to 10,000. And then when he's doing, the higher end of his damage of 10,000, he'll still be getting those assists. So that's all he's going to do. He's just additional damage, giving tactics, which is always really, really good for any of your skills. And he's just going to help get that damage up there. So occasionally Ursula will get a turn, and this is why it's really important for Hero to be able to stack up those shields. So you're going to see throughout this battle, every time Ursula does get a turn, we have all the evasion up to where she's not really doing any damage. And this kind of shows off down at the bottom of those skills. Those skills aren't doing anything because you're not getting hit. They're not going to be replenishing. So the skills, again, don't really matter. And when they do finally pop up way, way later, it's kind of too late at that point to really make a difference. So we're just continuing to do that whole synergy between those four, and then we're going to be taking advantage of this buggy over here from Stitch. So you can see 28,000, and the reason that is I'm sure you saw it earlier when it popped up. Stitch is going to be continuing to do his basic attack to put up those defense downs. So right now in Ursula, we've got 37 defense downs. We're just continuing to do that. Every time he hits, he gets 8 attacks, I believe, at this point. With his forearms because he's doing the double. And then when he's doing that, you're seeing those are anywhere from 1,200 to 2,000 damage. A lot of damage every time he goes. And so you just continue to do that, continue to rack up that defense down. And then as the blue buggy becomes available, you throw it. And you'll see that number just continue to climb and climb and climb as those defense downs stack up on Ursula. So that's really how this team works. You just kind of do that and do that. It's rinse and repeat. You're doing the same thing over and over and over. The difficult part here is eventually Ursula is going to get a turn. She's eventually going to be able to do that one-shot kill. And then you just kind of cross your fingers and hope that when she does that, it's going to hit somebody you don't really care about too much. And when it hits that person you don't care about, really what you're wanting her to hit is either Gantu or Honey Lemon. Those are the first two targets you don't care as much about. Just because what they do is great, but Stitch is your damage dealer. Bubbles is the person who's going to be able to take down the speed on Ursula. And Hero is really important for those evasions and making sure that Bubbles can get his turn as soon as possible. So if you were to be doing this in Heroic, if you lose Stitch as that first one-shotted target, probably want to forfeit and come back in. I did in T5. Stitch was the first one who went down when I did T5. I was still able to get 1,000,000 damage because he was able to get a lot in before Ursula got to that skill. But if you're wanting to hit the massive numbers, so the the over 1 million, the 1.5, the even 2 million, you really want Stitch to be one of the last ones that goes down. So again, we're just gonna work through this. We're gonna keep stacking up that defense down. We're gonna be stacking up that slow. With Honey Lemon, she's able to do slow. When you're having to do your basic attack with Hero, you can inflict slow as well. His potency is pretty good if you've got the skills maxed out. I wouldn't say it's a needed. When you look at skills, you can see what the needed ones are. When it comes to Gantu, Armada's really going to be the one you want to invest in. Stitch, the blue buggy, and the basic are the two you really want to invest in. Hero, it's the two you probably already have invested in, his shield and his speed up. Bubbles, stare down is really the key one you want. And then Ticket on top of that is really good just because you're giving that offense up to Stitch. And then Honey Lemon, really she just needs her basic. So that's kind of one of the things when you look at that, when you're trying to figure out where to put your runes if you haven't maxed these guys out, those are the skills really to look at if you're wanting to build this particular team for a raid. And like I mentioned, there's nothing in here like the Little Mermaid trio that is specific to Ursula. So I believe this build and this team will be good for any of the raid bosses in the future. I imagine most raids will look this way, where your final battle is a big throw all your damage in for the particular boss. And it would be similar to this on one-on-one. So this team, again, should be that team that can kind of flow from raid to raid. And so it's a very, very good investment. And in reality, the trio that we talked about, they're in your PvP team if you're using the Icy Silence team or you're using any of the top teams right now. You know, that is the core. But we can see here, we've got the instant death. She went after Hero first. It's kind of a bummer, but we still have her Stitch. So we're going to continue to do this in Heroic. Now we've got the blue punch buggy coming in, and we've gotten that 6 figures now. So we're at 115,000 damage from that punch buggy because we have our defense up, our defense down all the way to 98 stacks. So that, again, is just going to continue to rise as we keep going. And that's the important part of this whole build, is to continue to do those and then have Stitch do the car over and over and over. So we're continue to have slow. We've reached over 100 stacks of that defense down. So we're at 114 right now with defense down. So again, that blue buggy's getting 10% extra damage for each stack. And that's why you're seeing those giant numbers. So once Ursula gets her first one shot in, you can see that the team kind of changes a little bit. Without Hero right now, we're not able to put up more evasions. We're not able to speed up. So eventually, when Ursula starts getting all these attacks, she's going to whittle those evasions down. So we have enough stacks to kind of keep us around for a little bit, but eventually it is going to kind of get to the point where we just have what we have. So now we're up to 147,000 damage with that blue buggy. And it's just looking good at this point. So at this point, we've already figured out, we've probably already done over 500,000, over 600,000 damage. And we're just kind of seeing how far we can go. I would recommend when you're in these raids, especially when you get to Heroic, mentally keep a note of how much damage you've done, because when it comes to Heroic, you can forfeit. And if you forfeit, it just like in the Endurance Towers, you get your whole team back and you can redo it. So when it comes to these kind of raids, especially with a team like this in your phase 4, if you're wanting to hit that million damage, just really keep an eye on the blue buggies, and then just kind of an average time you think Stitch has done damage. So if you've counted about 500,000, 600,000 damage from the blue buggies, then he's over a million. You know, your team is over 1 million damage easy. But that's just one of those things to kind of keep in mind as you're going through, so that you know if you need to forfeit or not in the particular matchup. So we're just continuing to do our damage here. Continuing to use those basics and the blue buggy. So there's the blue buggy. It's a little bit down. We're down to 70,000, but that's because he didn't have his offense up from bubbles. So you can see now that Hero isn't around, he's not able to speed up bubbles like he was. And there goes Ursula with an instant kill again. It's Honey Lemon this time. We don't care as much. Again, right now, Bubbles and Stitch are the two we want still alive because Bubbles again can do stare down to bring her turn meter down, and then Stitch again as your big damage dealer. So at this point, Ursula's broken through our evasions. So now we're actually taking damage. So it's kind of we're on the downhill at this point. So we're just trying to get in as much damage as we can, because eventually Ursula's going to be able to start doing just basic attacks to kill our guys off. And so we just want to kind of continue to get as much in as we can. So we got another car there, 82,000. And again, if you like to see this kind of stuff, I do stream on Twitch Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We do a lot of the raids. We do, patch notes, updates, things like that, PvP. So definitely check it out. I'll have it down in the description, but essentially it's just twitch.tv/defaultdan, just like the YouTube channel. We have some videos that are still there from past streams, so definitely check those out. I have some new videos coming up. Hopefully this weekend. I did get the ability to use the Little Mermaid team and be able to get the Avast spell to pop up with Eric. So I've got that recorded. So we'll be looking at that attack that we did with the Little Mermaid team, as well as some other videos just around other teams you can use in different phases of the raid. So we've got one for part 2 of Flotsam and Jetsam that I'm going to be loading up, just showing you kind of the team I'm using currently as we hit to that stage. I've got another team that's really good in phase 1. I'm just going to need somebody else to record that because it has some overlap with this particular team. And right now I'm being slotted for phase 4 of our club when we're doing these heroic raids, since you can only use characters once. So I'm going to get some video of that so we can go through that and break down the damage there. But it's about a 300,000 to 400,000, pretty comfortable team for phase 1 against Glut. And that tends to be one of the hardest phases. And as you can see, our spells are finally to the point of being able to use them. But this is why you wouldn't want to use any kind of good spell with this team, because even if you're using something like Hammer at this point, reviving somebody is not going to help you. So again, this team, just focus on the characters. You do have to have 2 spells to have the complete 5 characters and 2 spells to do a raid. But you can just really use anything, and it doesn't matter too much of what spells you throw in here. So Stitch is getting that one shot right now. This is going to take him down and finish up the raid. And so you can see, I'm going to go back over here. So you can see the damage here. Stitch essentially coming up with, 900,000, just his damage. We've got Bubbles with all those assists that you were seeing. Gantu with that Armada damage. And that's where the big damage comes from. So we got 1.4 million damage in this particular run. Can't really ask for more, but definitely this team can do more. So it just kind of comes down to what characters Ursula's going to take out. But you can see this team isn't that difficult to run either. It's just kind of that repetitiveness of doing the same thing over and over. So once you do it a couple times, run it, you'll understand that, you'll get a feel for it, and you'll be able to do some big damage. So again, check back in on the YouTube. Definitely comment down below if you've got any favorite teams you're using currently in the raids. Let me know if you've got any questions about the particular team or how to use it. I'm always checking the comments and replying and things like that. And as always, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll have some new videos coming up soon. Appreciate you guys for watching.